Correction. 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 Correction.
All right. Welcome to Gray's Academy 301. I got Derek Dykens joining me today. We're going to talk a little bit about retail, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I want to do a little bit of a mic check, just make sure everybody can hear me all right. So, Derek, are you coming in?
Hey, how's it going?
All right, perfect, perfect. So we are good to go. So 301, we're talking about retail today. I mean, I feel like it's just appropriate for all the things going on right now across I guess the world at this point. You know, we got holiday season and all kinds of fun things going on. So before we get started, just the forward-looking statement. If you need to read that, please pause and read that. I'm your host, Gray Juba. I'm a technical marketing manager here in the industries. I'm a former automation controls engineer focused on manufacturing and controls. Splunker for over 4 years and was a customer before, focused on non traditional use cases of Splunk. And First conf was in 2016 and have a couple of hobbies down there. I always just like to make it a little bit more interactive and fun. So, Derek, won't you go ahead and give a quick introduction, or take as long as you want, but do an introduction real quick?
Awesome. Thanks, great. Hey, so I'm Derek Dykens. I'm Splunk's Global Retail Industry Advisor. I'm fortunate to be based down here in Miami, but I definitely did my part kind of up north. It's originally from Michigan. Actually used to work for Target in Minneapolis for 4 years at their corporate office, focused on in-store experiences, all things digital, which was a lot of fun. Moved out to New York for 6 years, so definitely have had my share of cold weather, but now I'm down in Miami. And I actually joined Splunk just a couple months before the pandemic got into full swing. So now that a few of us are back on the road and meeting folks, it's been great to actually meet some people for the first time in person after, I guess, a couple of years of being virtual. And as far as I go, love to travel, love all things food, and love to try different types of wine. And I am focused on our retail customers. So at Splunk, retail means a few different things. It can be your traditional retail, online retailers. It can be our quick service restaurant customers, as well as hospitality, cruise, and entertainment. So it's a pretty fun patch if you're passionate about retail.
It's funny you mentioned Target because it just reminds me. Okay, I'm not a TikToker, but every once in a while will watch a TikTok, and it was I want to say it was somebody out of the country, U.S. came to U.S. and it was all about Target, how it just blew their mind. Like they have everything that I need, and it always cracks me up. It's a universally like there's just a specific people that are just like it's the jam. It's everything that I need. It's got food, it's got clothes, it's got all the things. So
yeah, they have everything that you don't know you need because you end up leaving.
Exactly. You go in there. It's the definition of going into a place and thinking you're just gonna get some I don't know, like toilet paper. Next thing you just walk out with a basket. Like, how did this happen? It's just like the perfect combination. So, awesome. So a little bit before we get started and jump into the retail, know a little bit about how this all works. So we do have a sweepstakes, and we'll probably drop that in chat. I think I already dropped that in chat. So if you want to look for it, $25 gift card to the Splunk gift shop ends December 31st. 10 winners, one entry per person, and winners will be announced next month. And a little bit about what Gray's Academy is. So it's a 3-part series. I know we didn't do 1 and 2 this month. It was a little busy around the holidays. I did a little bit of early holiday stuff, but to kind of give you an idea, the first Thursday is a 101, and where we focus on building Splunk and really doing those first fundamental steps. And then the second Thursday is kind of like a less, a little bit about Splunk. You've gotten your hands dirty, but you want to learn some of the other features inside of the Splunk toolkit. And that's where we kind of dive into those things. And last is third Thursday, which is what we're doing today, proficiency level expert. And we focus on the non-traditional use, I say new markets and innovation maybe is a more appropriate use of it, where we start advancing some of the use cases and really which are perfect applications of Splunk, similarly to the IoT and industrial applications of what I'm most familiar with. And, today we'll be talking about retail, how Splunk can really dive into those areas and be proficient. A little bit of live streaming theme. We'll just kind of go over there and ask questions, have fun, figure out who we are, because that's one of the things that we as we kind of virtual world with all the things going on with COVID, we want to take that kind of experiences and make it interactive. So we do these live. We want you to ask questions. We want you to see what's going on in the space and have fun with us. So, again, I've read these before. If you want to know whether I'm charcoal or propane, if you're a Target or GameStop person, I don't know. Everybody's got their own preferences about what their retail fun and love are. So just want to kind of highlight those few things. I'm going to look over real quick to make sure we don't have any questions already. But it looks like we're good. So again, presentation. I don't think we're going to be doing a demo, but we'll be maybe a little bit of one at the end. And then we're going to close out with some questions. So, Daryl, if you have your slides or up and sharing, and I can drop those on the screen. Perfect. Let me know when you're ready to go.
Let's do it. Awesome.
All right, you got it.
Cool. Yeah, so I thought it made sense maybe just to take a step back and look at the last year, really all the way back to 2020, just because we've been through so much change as a retail industry, as a consumer, as the associates or employees that work across your stores, your distribution centers. It's really been a wild ride. A lot of things super unpredictable, not too sure what's coming next. We saw retailers basically take their 2 to 3 year strategies, in some cases their 5-year strategy, completely toss it out the window about 18 months ago and say, how do I operate the most effective way in a week-to-week plan within the next 1 or 2 weeks? What are the things that my customers need most? How do I make my associates feel more safe? And how do I start to pivot to some of these high-value type use cases, leveraging data platforms, leveraging new e-commerce technology, and all the cool stuff that sits in between. And so as we kind of lived through the last 18 months plus, we saw a lot of different changes. One was just the huge shift to online retail, as well as people starting to really begin their journey online from a retail perspective. We saw a huge increase in curbside pickup, buy online, pickup in store, anything around omni-channel fulfillment. It was kind of crazy. Early on in the early days of the pandemic, some of these retailers were mostly brick and mortar. Like they had a pretty small online or e-commerce presence, and all of a sudden they were seeing, daily traffic around Black Friday, Cyber Monday type levels, like on just a random Tuesday during the beginning of the pandemic. And, their systems weren't scaling. A lot of their legacy order management applications were having a hard time keeping up. And it was really a cool opportunity for us to come in Splunk and have a seat at the table to talk about all the great things that we can do to, help them scale, to provide better visibility, to look at things like, investigative capabilities to figure out where bottlenecks are and kind of turn some of those IT or security insights into business operation insights. I'll get into some of those examples later today. And then really the last one here is just the increase in customer need for real-time assistance. I can tell you in the last probably just 3 or 4 days, I've chatted with many retailers online for my own personal orders that are missing. I've made phone calls to try to track down holiday gifts and things that I was hoping would already be here. And it's been great because a lot of these retailers that I shop do have that real-time aspect where I can quickly chat. They have self-service options. They're providing full transparency about where my order is and what may have happened. So great. Similar experiences this holiday.
Yeah. No, I had the same thing. I actually had to send a message like, hey, I didn't get this delivered. And, you kind of think about it. It's like now that seasonality, almost like when the AC units, like people work in HVAC, it always gets busy right as seasons change, as they turn on that system they haven't turned on for a year. But now that isn't that rush of saying, hey, I'm going to need some clothes or I'm going to need some food. Like I know, like I went from never having food, like groceries delivered to my house to only having groceries delivered to my house. I mean, and I fell in love with it. So you imagine like this, people building this business and then all of a sudden everybody just fall on, just take off and go with it. And like you said, it's like almost like a Black Friday event where you don't even know and predict. Like, let's say a cold snap happens in the Northeast, and next thing you know, everybody's going to some, coat dealership or manufacturer, and they're just buying and blowing out their website. And it can just have an effect that you can't really predict, but you have to be able to monitor it so you can react appropriately. That's really kind of interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, definitely. I would say like even just in the last few months, I think the challenges to retail have been still unpredictable. Like, it comes down to supply chain, staffing shortages. There's just kind of, one thing after the next that folks are having to work through. The holiday season, we really didn't know what to expect, other than a lot of shoppers were going to start shopping earlier. And so you probably saw like holiday deals back in late September from some of your favorite retailers saying, hey, we're starting Black Friday, second week of October, or whatever it ended up being. Which meant from an IT perspective, a lot of those teams and a lot of kind of our Splunk efforts were brought much earlier into the year. So when we look at just holiday readiness for a retailer's e-commerce site, when we're doing like load testing and different things and making sure that they have that full visibility, we were starting kind of those services and tests much earlier in the year as well, just to make sure that we were ready for whatever may come.
Makes sense.
So when we look at just the overall trends, the cloud investments that are very clearly being accelerated just due to kind of the shift in customer behavior, omni-channel enhancements. So I kind of stepped through a few of those. We've definitely seen a lot around retailers adding new features, functions to their site, things around, payment, allowing you more flexible payment in the way that you actually transact with them, kind of this whole pay later or pay in multiple payments, almost like a layaway type scenario, flexible order fulfillment. So again, this really gets into providing full transparency around where your order is, allowing you to, pick your own delivery time windows and pay what you feel, is necessary to get your order when it should arrive. And then store modernization. So this is really around the four walls of the store. So one thing that the pandemic has really helped us kind of proven true is that the stores are very much alive and are critical to the success of these retailers. Even with orders kind of shifting to online, the stores are definitely a place that the customer needs to feel safe going into. It tends to be now kind of that center for fulfillment. So you've got your associates, kind of their role shifting to now picking in-store orders and making sure that those are out at the curb and ready when customers arrive. So there's this whole modernization effort as well. As their role changes, we're seeing next-gen point of sale systems that are just super slick, containerization in the store, and really a lot around kind of edge analytics and edge computing. So more to come on that, but it's definitely based on these trends, just a really exciting time to be in retail. Do any of these, Grace, surprise you, or they kind of align with what you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the things that kind of piqued my mind is as shopping changes, you have to analyze quickly what you need to have in your store and what you don't need to have in your store as well. It's kind of like, because you were describing like people's buying patterns just change, could almost be overnight. And when you said store modernization, I didn't really think about like what entails, because at the same time, you still need to make your brick and mortar lucrative, and you can't just pivot because you don't know if things are going to change back, and you want to be in a position that you can maintain all of those financial decisions and being able to make the best decision, I guess you could say, and maintain those brick and mortars when you have them.
Yep. Yeah, I think the retailers right now, what we're seeing is those that are leaning in on their stores and that store footprint, making the right investments and doing the modernization, that customers have come to, I guess, expect, are actually doing very well. I think it's those that are kind of steering the course, keeping kind of this legacy mindset around really what the function of the store is or the role of the store employee. Those are the ones that are they're going to continue to struggle as we work our way through the next few years. So how does Splunk kind of fit into this? In a lot of different ways, which is great. So typically, when I'm coming in and talking to a retail customer or someone who's really interested in maybe even investing in Splunk for the first time, a lot of the questions that we're trying to help them answer are around performance, reliability, and security. We really do focus on their customer-facing applications, understanding how those apps are performing from first click all the way through fulfillment, and then eventually when that customer is picking it up, in some cases all the way through kind of a return and getting into some things around reverse logistics as well. But the cool thing is, like, when data is in Splunk, there's so many uses for that same data set. So we typically look at, their security, their IT ops, their DevOps type data, and we can start to come up with some more kind of compelling use cases. So let's say, you're using Splunk today for your SIM, that's a really great starting point for us to lean in and expand to other use cases, maybe in the store around, point of sale monitoring, or maybe some insights around what your customers are doing on the website as they shop. So As we pull that data together, I think the big thing is just kind of those near real-time analytics around, hey, what problems are occurring? How do I get ahead of those? Are there ways to be more predictive so that if something, let's say on my site, a service is not working, properly, or let's say your shopping cart application is kind of getting hung up, how do we actually get more predictive or automated in the way that we deal with those things so that we can look at, even in some ways, self-healing.
And I imagine something like that, like a shopping cart issue. You say a shopping cart issue, like in the manufacturing line, like the line stop, it's going to cost you X amount of period of money an hour, and to be able to figure out how quickly and react to those downtimes, are going to have a significant effect on your overall bottom line. Because one of the things about especially manufacturing compared to retail is manufacturing, you can just work more, even though you may not, if you have to make product for a solution to hit those deadlines. Retail, you're 24/7, especially in the online experience, and those, you can't make up time that's lost. Again, at the same time, losing customers along the way.
Yeah, no, definitely. And even when you look at retail, like the customer facing aspect, at least online, is 24 hours. But when you think about how a retailer is operating, a lot of times, like look at an Amazon fulfillment center, right? Those are 24 hours, 7 days a week. Same with a lot of these stores. Some of these stores are 24 hours, or if they are closed overnight, they're restocking. And again, those applications need to be performing. So let's say you're a store associate, you're working the night shift to restock shelves, and your mobile device isn't working. Like, that's a terrible scenario for you, because now you can't actually do the restocking. You don't know where the products go, how many to put on the shelf, all kind of the picking, packing aspects as well.
You can still put products on the shelf, but you won't be able to do that whole like check in how much you took into the shelves, and then it gets all out of whack, and then you run into a situation where you say you have inventory and you actually don't, because you missed that chance, and so that just throws wrenches into the whole process.
Yeah, even like a lot of these retailers are moving to digital for their visual merchandising. So when you used to send kind of a physical planogram to the store to do price changes, to actually stock the shelves the way they're supposed to look, whether it's an end cap or an whole aisle, a lot of that's moving digital. So they're doing it on iPads or tablets and things right now in the store as well. So a lot is changing, but the technology, the applications, the performance of those, has never been more critical, as the employees and customers both depend on it. So cool. So I touched on a couple of these already, but the main pillars that we're focused on from a retail team, the first is around store reliability. This is really ensuring that you're kind of monitoring end to end all of your core applications and services that make the store run. So this could be point of sale, it could be your store infrastructure, like your network, your telco provider. It could be things around like providing payment assurance to make sure that your PIN pads are working. The next pillar is around digital performance, and obviously we're seeing these first two blend quite a bit as we focus on omni-channel, or even now some retailers are calling it channel-less shopping. But digital performance is really any digital channel that you have. So some of the retailers we work with, have dozens of websites around the world based on where they're operating, where they have multiple brands under a single banner, and so the digital performance of all your sites, regardless of where they're based, how they're built, is really important. So again, looking at proactively monitoring their applications, their cloud services, their third-party applications, to ensure that every click is working as expected, and every customer is able to make that transaction that they intend to. And the last one is really around retail application monitoring. So we've seen some great traction here with Splunk Observability Cloud. Again, this is around all those critical applications that help a retailer run. So workforce management, inventory management systems, replenishment, order management, all that good stuff. So really, as oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to type on that like observability aspect, and we had some of the people from the observability team join us, and we talked about how if I click and I don't get a refresh rate, it's interesting how if I don't get a response on the website, how I will immediately think or start doing something else, which, I'll just start going something else, and I'll come back and maybe 3 hours later, and I'm like, what was I doing here? I've got to start over. Because if you don't do that in the appropriate amount of time, it has a negative effect on your overall turnaround. Like, so as you study, say, okay, product was put in cart, product then transitioned to the next spot. And then if I don't get that response to say, go to checkout, and it takes an extra quarter second. I can't remember the statistic that he gave me, but it was small. I want to say it was less than a second. If I didn't get that page popping back up, let me know that progress was going. That they were seeing a drastic drop in the total number of checkouts completed just from a single issue like that. And so then you're talking about monitoring. Well, that can happen from different locations in the world, not necessarily just from my office pinging my server next door. You think about it from you're doing these tests from different locations in the world. So that's really interesting. So it's yeah. I love it. I'll let you continue. It's just I sometimes I'm great for this because I get ADD and I'm like I just kind of talk about that applies, and it's just interesting to how it's so important. And it all comes together about a universe or like a healthy experience for the customer at the end.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, you bring up a good point, because sometimes things are kind of in our control, right? Where we could have visibility and make some corrections, know that something's going to go wrong. In other cases, like sometimes it's out of our control. So we just had in the last couple of weeks, I'm sure you saw some outages with cloud providers where retailers were having issues. Some of our favorite kind of amusement parks were having issues getting people in and ticketed. But as we start to rely more on these third-party services for features, functions, for our infrastructure, it's just really important that we are able to kind of look ahead and have kind of a clear view of what's going on in the environment so that we can get ahead of it. Some of our retailers are doing full payment assurance with Splunk, which is great. So they're looking kind of proactively at all the banking institutions or payment gateways that are processing credit cards. And this retailer is reaching out proactively to the banks and saying, hey, like we're actually seeing latency when we're doing transactions with you with these specific card numbers. And they're helping the financial institutions troubleshoot because they're looking so far ahead versus waiting for customers to have failed transactions and see it the day after.
And it's beautiful how you describe that, because in the manufacturing, I'm sorry I keep on bringing about manufacturing. It's kind of like when I received a shipment in a product, I need to be able to provide data that the shipment, let's say I have some off quality or some information, I need to provide that the data or the product that came in that I was going to do work on was of good quality. Because without data, it's just an opinion, and how without being able to show let's say the financial systems, like here are the time and here's the latency, they were happening at this time, and really just saying like, here's a single spreadsheet about things that were going wrong and we think it's you. We think it's you type of thing, and let's work together to really solve that problem. And that's very similar to like manufacturing. The same, like I need to be able to say this is a product and there was not the quality of the product and it was this batch number. You need to go look and investigate this batch number. And in a lot of cases, there's opportunities depending on how retailers and those contracts are working, that there's a chargeback models and things like that, but you still need the data to really execute those chargeback systems.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, you brought up some good points about just like systems failing and what that means for manufacturing. Even in retail, like a lot of our customers are saying, hey, can you help us understand when we do have a failure, like what was the impact to the business? What did that cost us? So, you'll see like every Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I feel like a retailer unfortunately gets in the news for the wrong reasons, where their site was down for X number of hours and they lost, 20 million in sales. Or they even in some cases like relaunch a sale days later to try to capture some of those lost customers. And it's the technology that exists today, it's interesting to start to pull that together, correlate the different data sources and say, hey, when X, Y, and Z happens, like this is the actual financial impact on your business, or this is the impact on customer loyalty, or these are the number of customers that churned during that 1 hour window of an outage on the East Coast. So there's a lot more that we can do versus kind of throwing our hands up and saying, hey, what did that outage cost us? Or, what did that poor code push cost us? We're getting much better at that now with the data that's available.
Yeah, and it's you hit a very big key. Like a Black Friday, all hands are on deck, and you're able to get that data and answers like within hours or within minutes or hours of getting all people on hands deck to figure out what the problem is. The thing is what gets you is all the 364 other days when it's not all hands on deck, where you got to say, okay, today we had a small outage that cost us this much money. And you got to know that answer right now. You don't need to know that answer next week because you've got a new outage that's causing you, $17 per minute or however long, even though it might be small, you need to know how much today we lost due to outages that may have been minutia, to be able to see a single dashboard visualization to say, this is how much it costs now, and have it in real time. Because, I mean, I imagine in the retail space, it's very similar to the manufacturing space. It was, things broke, I'll get you a spreadsheet next week about what happened, and then the problem fixes itself. We don't have a resolution plan, we don't have anything forward about what we need to do next to prevent it from happening again. So it's very important in today's modern age to get those answers quick. So I imagine, is that pretty accurate statement?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And I think the other pieces that we're seeing right now is, as these retailers just go through kind of growing pains, whether it's adding new stores or making a more kind of robust, scalable e-commerce site, like sometimes we're asked, hey, like as we grow, should we just add, X% headcount for our tier 1 support team, or to support, this and that. And it's like, no, actually, if you kind of look at this more from an AI ops perspective, there's a lot more that you can do with the resources that you have, by providing kind of a single pane of glass for them to do those searches and figure out what's going on. So if you're adding, let's say, another 10% of stores, maybe a couple hundred, the next 2 or 3 years, that doesn't mean that you have to invest that same in headcount for support teams to actually answer calls from the stores when a point of sale register goes down or something like that. There's a lot of optimization that can be done from a kind of AI perspective. So we'll touch on that in a bit here too.
Yeah, I feel like we got to move a little bit now. We're having a lot of fun. We got some other people. We got some other things we want to show you guys.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
This isn't the Derek and Grace show.
So yeah, brick and mortar stores, these tend to be data-rich environments that are somewhat disconnected. So we're seeing a huge push right now around edge computing, which is awesome. I think it's been a long time coming for retail. I mean, Gray, you coming from the manufacturing space, things like smart manufacturing and IoT have been around for a while. We're now getting to a point in retail where we're kind of making it over the hump, and retailers are making that investment in all things edge, which is great. So as you look at this data, really having a single place for it all to come in and correlate can definitely be a powerful thing for you. And so I wanted to share a customer story here around a retailer we were working with in Europe. They were rolling out basically their next gen point of sale system for their registers. 900 stores, 10,000 registers. As they were rolling it out, making application changes, they actually were having a hard time understanding when registers were going down, when they were getting error codes, when registers were responding slowly or not being patched appropriately. And they actually started to put their entire kind of point of sale rollout on hold, just to really address some of these support issues before continuing the rollout. So Splunk and our cloud partner basically put together an approach to centralize all of their monitoring for their stores, and get them from kind of this reactive state to a more proactive state. Again, making sure that those customers are able to make their transactions as they go through the registers, which again it's pretty much table stakes for a retailer. You have to be able to give them your card and get that payment to go through. And now we're looking at expanding that kind of for a full end-to-end program for over 70,000 devices. This is where we start to get into things like IoT, but really being able to see kind of complete visibility of their stores. And so the impact on this is really, again, getting their point of sale rollout back on track, making sure that they have improved monitoring, so they're able to see kind of how those releases are going, and stop those that are not going as planned. And then just overall kind of optimizing how their support teams handle calls. So again, going from this kind of reactive, like, hey, someone's calling in to report an outage, to now proactively seeing things before even a store opens and try to address those through service restarts, or if there's some hardware that needs replaced, again, having that visibility kind of look.
Yeah, I mean, even just like giving a healthy collection of what the versioning everything is in the space, and you correlating to say like, okay, it looks like this firmware is causing us issues. Yeah. Let's be proactive in fixing all this, and just knowing a full view of what's this. So it makes so much sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think being able to build like a prescriptive roadmap is definitely something that our retailers, quick service restaurants, have found to be pretty helpful. So it's, being able to put together kind of phases. So it's hard to say, hey, our stores are just like full of this data. We have all this technology that, we need to monitor better, just have better visibility to, like, really understanding where the low-hanging fruit is. So looking at things like your incident counts, your uptimes, where you're not meeting your SLAs for your store employees, talking to the business teams, like understanding from your regional, your VPs in the field, like, hey, what's going on, what's bothering what's bothering you? Where do you think the friction is with the technology? And starting to get ahead of that through, just putting better practices and monitoring in place. With this, typically the roadmap would consist of logs, metrics, and traces, as well as we look at full observability, and getting those retailers to kind of this predictive state, this self-healing state with automation as well. So did you guys do in manufacturing a lot of roadmaps and stuff like that for customers too?
So a lot of the times we focused on like the predictive, like if we get into the predictive type of state and roadmaps, it was always about like machine roadmaps, what we were going to do with that particular set of equipment. Like how are we going to get it brought up to speed? How are we going to monitor this? And then they would get to the final stage of how are we going to predict when things failed on that machine so that it could be proactive instead of, like you said, that reactionary step. And well, the thing is it's hard to have things automatically fix itself in the manufacturing because a lot of stuff is like physical failures. Yeah. So a lot of times it was saying, let's say like a bearing on a motor or the current, and it's kind of like a boiling the frog type of effect. You had to be prepared. So you'd have a combination between hard stops to say, if my, temperature of something goes above this, send somebody out to investigate. And then at the same time, if we predict based off its trajectory, will it fail? And following the just in anomaly detection as well.
Yeah, I think like even looking at another grocer, like they're doing our machine learning toolkit on their hard drive logs. So when hard drives are going to fail, so they're predicting that, getting techs out there early just based on the symptoms that they're seeing. So again, I mean, worst case scenario would be you're in the middle of a transaction. Let's say you've got 100 of your grocery items and more than half are scanned, and then that terminal fails. When you've got 10,000 of them, that can happen, sporadically throughout your your environment. So you can apply ML to get those out of there before they fail. You swap them out overnight or whatever. It's much better. Just an example, kind of point of sale monitoring. Again, KPIs that matter most, being able to look at things like your component health, your peripherals, taking this data and then actually applying it to like business processes too. So we've had some customers say, hey, like help me understand if it's faster for my customers to key in their phone number, on the pin pad to get their loyalty program attached, or if it's better for them to like voice it. And we'll have my associate type it in. So it can be like a store operations use case, fraud use cases are pretty common as well. So we can look at all the keystrokes and things that are happening, cashback transactions, start to alert on, where we think fraud may be occurring at the register. And then again, use it kind of as an investigative tool as well. So lots of things that you can do with your IT ops and security data.
Absolutely.
Another quick example, and this one I included the comp presentation too. So we had one of our big global customers present on what they were doing around inventory management. So this was awesome because again, started as like this whole omni-channel performance kind of reliability use case, providing just better visibility across what that inventory application was doing. And at the end of the day, they were able to kind of leverage the data coming into Splunk to create some better dashboards and reports for the store ops team. So now they're able to see in near real time, like what those associates are doing on their handhelds when they're packing orders. And they're able to coach those employees as well. So store managers can now leverage that data and say, hey, these are the KPIs that I'm seeing, for today versus the rest of my employees. Like, help me understand what's going on or what type of orders are getting hung up. So in addition to just improving the overall performance of their applications, they can actually improve, they're leveraging the data to improve the employee performance too. So kind of twofold, which is awesome. We love to see that. So I'm gonna kind of step through just a slide here on e-commerce performance and reliability. So now this is more around our middle pillar, digital performance. I kind of mentioned already, like we like to see the foundation around system and application level metrics. So, what's my uptime? Where are my errors occurring? What type of sessions are happening? Where are my services? Does anything need attention? And then from there, kind of leveraging that same data to look at things around customer behavior analytics. This is things like, hey, how long have my customers been on the site? What's happening with my shopping cart function, my other third-party applications? Can I do some A/B testing here to see what they're doing? So a lot of times you'll see, let's say you're using like Google Analytics or something, you'll see some anomalies in the data, like where there's customer churn or something, but you might not know what the IT performance is of your site. So maybe you were experiencing like, crazy latency, or maybe you had a lot of pages go down, you were getting 400, 500 errors, whatever it may be. but yet you're making business decisions around, some of your customer behavior analytics that aren't really fully encompassing of outages and other things. So we can kind of pull that all together, really get just a better view of what's happening in the environment. And then, we even have customers with, C-suite dashboards where, again, like in near real time, they're seeing what items are being sold, how marketing programs are going, what's being redeemed on their site or even in store, depending on the channel, all that good stuff. So again, starting kind of with the foundational aspect around operations and then moving into more of those business insights as well. I am actually going to jump ahead here because we have a special guest, so I want to make sure we get to her. Last thing I'll cover is around just end-to-end testing. So kind of our traditional Splunk, we're really focused around the back end aspect of it. And you can kind of see all the different products or things that would make up solutions that would make up being able to monitor your infrastructure applications, kind of the business processes that we've been talking about. Through an acquisition that we actually made, it's been over a year now, around synthetics, we now have kind of from the front all the way to the back end where we've pulled it all together with things around like synthetics and web optimization. So now through that monitoring, we're able to look at things like third-party dependencies, the APIs. Gray, you mentioned earlier, like doing some testing around, your desktop, your mobile device on a 5G network, whether you're in Texas, whether you're in New York, Australia, wherever you may be, kind of pulling that more front-end experience data together and having really that holistic picture of what's happening across your digital experiences.
Splunk your whole environment, and that's or viewing the whole environment, that single application for all of the end to end, the left to right, exactly what's going on. Yeah, no, it's my dream. It's like my dream just to see like an end to end holistic application of, and then there's doing it, but just in every single aspect. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. They used to be like two different worlds. So now they're all colliding, and there's a lot that can be said about, these teams that are now collaborating. And I'll let Sarah, as we kind of pull her in, kind of speak to that. But I did a terrible introduction of synthetics. So first we'll get Sarah's introduction and her and I'll chat a bit.
We'll bring the expert on.
Exactly.
Bring the expert on.
No problem. No, that was a great job. And you actually repeated a lot of what I would have said anyway. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Ware. I'm a product specialist with Splunk. I just joined mid-2021. And I'm actually a former Splunk Synthetics customer. I was a manager of quality assurance, and I was using this as part of my regression testing. So I have that perspective that I get to bring not only to Splunkers, as this is a new product, but also to our potential users to help people figure out, okay, how can I get the most value out of this sooner? And retail is a perfect use case for this. If I commented on everything that Derek and Gray said, I would spend another 30 minutes saying, okay, synthetics can address this, and this. So I won't do that.
Whoops. I just knocked her off. My bad.
I was like, you just got
Sorry about that.
I guess I'm done. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, basically, I mean, Derek said it perfectly. We in Splunk, we have such a heavy focus on the back end, and pulling synthetics in really gives us kind of more of the front end visibility. What are our users experiencing on the front end? And I believe I'm sharing my screen. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, and Sarah, before you get into kind of this demo that we're going to do, would love for you to share just like a customer story, because we have like such great Splunk synthetic customers where they're leveraging literally synthetics across like all aspects of their business, like dozens of their global sites. And just for you to kind of focus on like, hey, what value do they see you as a previous customer? What got you excited about just synthetics in general and the way that Splunk does it?
Oh, definitely. So many things to say. So one of my favorite customers to work with actually is a big retail customer. She manages dozens of different product lines and has really introduced the value of performance into her company. And so she has, like you said, dozens of teams working on all of these different products across the globe. And they've been able to scale up, not just looking at what's in the US on desktop, but what is in Israel on mobile, monitoring all of that getting their alerts in real time. And we have, decks and decks of user success stories, but, the really, really hard hitting ones are those that, a payment verification goes out, but because you have everything monitored, you get a real-time alert on it. You can implement a workaround, and this happened for one of our retailers a couple of years ago. You get a real-time alert, you implement a workaround so the checkout flow isn't impacted and your users aren't pissed off that they can't buy this thing and then they leave. And then they get into contact with those vendors that they see are having an issue. We see this on Black Friday too, that certain vendors can really impact other sites based on who they're serving. We also have a lot of instances where, like Grace said earlier, without data, it's just an opinion. So we had a customer who was saying, these API calls have issues. And because we have these out of the box visualizations, the proof is in the pudding. You just see here you go, please fix this. So a lot of very fast customer success because these checks are so easy to spin up and so easy to just start getting data populating and getting it to where it needs to be. So we've seen a lot of those kind of ad hoc fixes, but also kind of ongoing. What is the user experience? What are those kind of hurdles that you come across, that your users are coming across? And seeing customers reduce their input delay time, their time to interactive, and seeing an increase in conversions, which of course, better revenue that way. So definitely a lot of win cases and a lot of very fast time to value with people using these checks.
Awesome. No, I love it. It's it's been a lot of fun just learning about synthetics, seeing our customers implement it, kind of tie it back to what they're already doing with Splunk around e-commerce performance. So cool. Well, now that we've kind of teased the crowd a bit, let's jump into into the demo.
Yeah, definitely. And this all kind of goes along with you don't know what you don't know. And so if you have your sites, your apps, your APIs monitored, once you start seeing that data, it's really informative. With synthetics, not only are we seeing more of the front end experience, but we have the ability to hopefully prevent these performance issues from reaching the production environment, because we can fabricate these user journeys. If you are really concerned about SLA adherence for certain business transactions on your site, or maybe you've implemented a new CDN and you want to test it out before going live, we can do that with synthetics. And the same with very critical user journeys, ordering and checking out, making sure that the APIs for inventory and shipping are up and accurate and working in a timely manner, checking rewards, all of those critical things we can monitor and alert on and really give the insight into how things can be improved. And again, implementing these things not only in production, but also in your QA, your staging environments, that kind of thing, so you can hopefully prevent issues from reaching those real users.
So real quickly, so if you're talking about an environment which you're doing like a demo for a CDN or content delivery network and stuff like that, tell me exactly how you test. I mean, there's twofold. There's like, can the system be completed, and then can it handle the traffic flow? Is that, and that handles both, and then be able to give me a report about how the process, and I'm sure that's what we're about to do now. I'm notorious about, kind of jumping on ahead. I wasn't intending to jump, but I guess that's what we're going to go into now. Am I leading it in really well?
Yes, the short answer is yes.
Sorry, I'll wait for the demo.
No, that's perfect. So thank you for that transition. So how we set up these checks, there's several different types based on what you need to monitor. So, uptime for basic availability, API checks, maybe if you have a mobile app, or again, like I said, some third-party shipping API, something like that going on. Those are very simple checks that you can create in minutes to start monitoring. The real kind of differentiator here is the real browser checks. So this is a front-end user journey that you can accomplish. So say this is our demo site, we're clicking a product, we're adding to cart, we're checking out and verifying the success and seeing the output of it based on all of the configuration that we want. So, I would look at my analytics and say, okay, most of our users are on Chrome, they're on desktop, and they're in North America. So you can structure your test that way and get ahead of those users, again, hopefully experiencing issues, fix them before they find out about them. So it's really preemptive kind of testing, of course, informed by your KPIs, your business initiatives, what your users need, but really kind of having that experimental environment and seeing how things are doing, and then constantly improving on those. We have 49 locations across the globe with the ability out of the box to add any number of private locations as well. So that can be really handy if you're doing internal testing, maybe like in-store point of sale, like we were talking about earlier, making sure that the employees in a certain store can access certain APIs or certain internal sites that they need to. That can be really handy. And again, seeing how you're doing globally, certain areas might need more attention than others. So it can be really handy to slice and dice the data that way as well. So this is just one example of a user stepping through a process. I actually have a pizza delivery service in the UK test running, and we can see if we click through any one of these runs that's going on kind of high level, how are the business transactions performing that I care about, cookies, but ordering, checking out, what does the front end look like? So I have this test running on desktop. So we have what was happening on that desktop visually, and then where are those metrics coming into play. So this can be really handy if you're troubleshooting issues, if you have some maybe customer complaints or struggles that you know of, you can really investigate front end, what's going on, what are our customers seeing, and how can we fix it?
So essentially, if I can use it in my terms, it's like creating a macro, and it runs this macro, and you get a response and expecting it to do before it does the same test. So then you can see segmented times between each of those steps. So you can say, this was the step, and this is what the page, not only was this the step, but this is what the page looked like. Because, like you said, a picture is 1,000 words to say, I wasn't either. You can know whether it's like, hey, is this a response? I'm expecting to see something back, but the page loaded, but there was something going on in the back end, and that can tell you just even there what's, the next step of diagnosing. So that's interesting.
Exactly. And we have the steps delineated, and when steps do fail, for example, this one that I set up for some reason doesn't always like mushrooms. I don't know why, but sometimes the mushroom step fails, but it tells you exactly where does it fail. Let's go to the screenshot and see kind of what's going on the front end that might be causing this. And then you can dive into, okay, maybe I look at my domain performance. I have this one pulled up for, this was Thanksgiving Day. Again, pizza ordering. Maybe you want pizza on Thanksgiving. That's fine. This is an example of, we see an issue. Maybe it's not obvious from the error. We see the step, it fails. Maybe something's going on with one of our vendors that we're using, one of our third parties. This is a good example of kind of out of the box. We see, okay, there's a spike that we need to investigate. This looks like LinkedIn took 152 seconds to load this run for some reason. We see other issues, for example, with even Google Tag Manager, things like that. I've seen issues with Adobe. You see it with font libraries. Any of these third parties that you're leveraging can impact the user experience on your site because it's just a piece of the puzzle, and that's how it works. But because you get these alerts, you can find out faster, that there is an issue. You can get a message ahead of your users, or again, you can work around it.
Cool. Yeah, I love it. And I think that, the great part is, again, you can do it in your pre-production environment, you can do it in production. So, a lot of these, any retailer, any quick service restaurant that's getting ready to launch a new kind of promotion, hero on their site, kind of rebranding, whatever, it's great to just run all of these tests beforehand and make sure you understand.
You want to be as prepared to do it live as you can to be prepared to do it live. So that's really interesting because going through that whole flow, and seeing the process and being able to test that seems key, especially like Derek was saying, if you're rolling out a new process or say just a whole new application, you say, you know what, we need to make sure we are hardening it, because the old one might be perfect, in the sense of how it's functioning. The last thing you want to do is put something in that is not as functioning as well, even though it may be a better experience. But if the better experience is only reliable 95% of the time, I would choose the 98% of the time, 99% of the time, all the time.
Exactly. And that applies to so many things, not just, new features, but also different types of content, site redesigns, platform migrations, vendor changes, all of that. So you can have all of these tests running concurrently, just automated. And that's what I did. I would have them running in prod and in QA and in staging, and get alerts when things would change or if there's something unusual happening, so I could kind of get ahead of it, talk to my developers and say, okay, what did we implement? Or maybe what did the marketing team implement? We have this beautiful new video for our new campaign and it tanked the site, that kind of thing. So you can always have those visualizations kind of side by side of what's happening either between device types or between release versions. That kind of thing can be super informative. And then, like you said, kind of getting ahead so that you're not scrambling to fix something, in production. Hopefully you're fixing it beforehand.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. And again, just to be clear, so the synthetic monitoring is part of the Splunk platform today, which is great. It has been for now over a year. And so we're even seeing a lot of our customers now bring that synthetic data, those runs, the tests, the metrics in, and correlate it directly with what's already in, whether it's Splunk Cloud or on-premise, to really understand kind of that end-to-end picture of what's happening. So now you've got your front-end metrics from the synthetics piece, and then you have your back-end kind of components as well, all within a single dashboard. So we can share an example or two of that here coming up. But Sarah, thank you so much. Love having you part of the Splunk family here. So it's a pleasure.
Thanks, love being here.
Cool. All right, so we worked our way through the synthetics monitoring Splunk demo. And great, are my slides up by chance?
Yes, they are up.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so we just mentioned kind of bringing it all together. Your KPIs across e-commerce monitoring and performance, section some things about, your content delivery networks, your kind of infrastructure. There's even stuff around like account management to know how often password resets are happening from a security or fraud perspective, looking at things like loyalty account takeovers, again, all kind of in a single spot where you can check your health scores, have your synthetics data right in there as well. So now you would know, if it's a front-end issue, maybe an uncompressed image, or if it's actually a back-end issue with a service or application that's creating the issue, creating the performance challenges. Order management performance, great. This is kind of going back to our points earlier about, hey, how do you shop? Are you buying online, picking up in store, curbside? Are you doing a lot of Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, just having stuff delivered right to your door? This, again, provides just full visibility across your business insights as well as your application services. So here it shows kind of by channel how things are going. You can see, from a mobile standpoint, things are looking pretty good. This is where we would apply our machine learning toolkit, for example, to look at kind of, hey, in the next 30 minutes, what is that service score going to be? So you can actually predict that kind of that mobile app service is going to go from green, sitting at a 96, to red in the next 30 minutes. So being able to click down into the details and say, hey, we've got databases filling up, we've got latency on our network, we've got kind of X, Y, and Z happening. we've seen this before, and we believe it's actually going to create an outage or slow performance. So getting ahead of some of those things through the predictive analytics that can be provided, again, for your order management system, for your backend applications, as well as now kind of your front end web applications. Cool. Any questions on that, Gray? I know we can.
No, you're doing great. I think I followed it all, and it's and it kind of ties it all back into, you know, that whole like Splunk whole ecosystem of monitoring end to end about the health and status of your whole system. You know, we've gone from spinning up servers to going deployment to testing to make sure that we're running, all the way to monitoring the point of sale system to monitoring how things are being stocked on the shelves and our inventory. I mean, we didn't even, that kind of goes beyond the realms of maybe right near, but that's another thing. You've got inventory monitoring, you've got management, and it's just like where and how is the environment doing, and rolling it up to a number that is saying downtime cost and, total amounts of productivity, effects of different outages, and understanding where you stand and how did we do today, and getting closer and closer every single day about why am I productive? Am I making money right now, or am I losing money right now? Who do I need to get on the phone? Who do I need to start, getting to answers from, and being and not just on Black Friday, all the time.
All the time, 24/7, 365. You got
exactly. So
yeah, retail doesn't shop as long as there's customers out there clicking and packages that need to be delivered. So
yeah, no, absolutely. So
yeah, we covered a lot today. So thank you so much for having me. Hopefully we had some folks that love retail on and they saw value in it. And I'm sure there were a lot of folks that don't know as much about retail, and hopefully they're able to take some stuff away and apply it to their industry. But if you want to learn more, there's our retail landing page. You can reach out to me directly as well through LinkedIn or ddikens@splunk.com. Would love to continue the conversation.
And I dropped that same link into the chat as well. So if people want to find out more information, again, reach out to Derek. I've dropped it in the chat. If you like what you saw today, you want to hear more, you want to dive into synthetics, maybe even have a specialty just focused on that entirely, we can do that. And so please fill out that survey, and I'm going to drop that back up there real quick. And if you again, jump into it, leave it up there. And thank you everyone for joining today. I do think that we have a video that we'll probably end with, and but thank you all for joining us. Any last words from Sarah or Derek? If not, thank you for joining me. And yeah. All right.
Thank you.